If you still think of Decathlon as merely the place to buy €5 headlamps and backup socks, the Simond MT900 Ultralight backpack might just surprise you. At 50 liters and weighing in at 880 grams, that's a little under 2 pounds, it is a serious attempt to compete in the ultralight backpacking world and earn Decathlon some street credibility. Or probably more like trail credibility. It's clear that they've taken a long, hard look at the state-of-the-art of ultralight backpacks and come up with a pack that, while not perfect, does tick a lot of boxes. But let's take a step back. This is aimed at people who, above all, want a light backpack, either because they aim to cover a lot of ground or just because they hate the feeling of a heavy backpack. And ultralight hiking has been gaining popularity for over 20 years now. And I'll be the first to say that sometimes people go a little overboard, and you can get the feeling that half the people in these ultralight communities online are more interested in getting their base weight down for bragging rights than in actual hiking. Still, once you've done a couple of multi-day hikes with a sub 10 kilograms backpack, it really is hard to go back to traditional heavy gear. And that growing market for ultralight equipment has been dominated by a lot of smaller cottage companies, which is beautiful in itself. The people making this gear often being very active in the community themselves, listening to people, explaining the pros and cons of different choices, and then coming up with innovative products. That whole scene just moving forward together. That has been great to see. The downside is that many of these products are just prohibitively expensive for a lot of people due to the small scale, especially if you need to import them from the States. Which is why it's great that a company like Decathlon has started to release some real interesting ultralight hiking gear and bringing them into the reach of more people, hopefully, of course, without smothering that cottage industry. I'm not too worried about US companies since Decathlon doesn't have any physical stores there. In the EU, we will have to see how that plays out. There's a lot of amazing smaller gear companies out there, so do keep supporting those if you can. But enough intro. What can you expect from the MT900 pack? Well, it's a minimalist design, a large 39-liter inside volume and a large front compartment for anything you want quick access to during the day, divided into 3 parts, bottles and walking sticks at the sides. There's a pouch on the hip belt, some straps to attach stuff to the top or to the bottom. This is honestly what 95% of ultralight backpacks look like. So what sets it apart? Well, the big one is at the back, featuring a curved ventilated back panel that Decathlon added as a nod to sweaty hikers everywhere. And that ventilation is a great feature that a lot of people will appreciate, especially in warmer weather. But the frame itself actually is too, because a lot of ultralight packs ditch the frame altogether, meaning that you don't have anything providing any rigidity at the back. Some people will say that doesn't really matter if the weight of what you're carrying is low enough. Some people will use a closed cell foam pad to provide some structure. For me personally, a framed pack is honestly a non-negotiable. I want as much of that weight on my hips as possible because that's just better for my shoulders, my spine, and my mood. Everyone's built differently. Some people swear by frameless packs. All I'm saying here is that if you compare this to other backpacks that might be similarly priced, be sure to check if they have some kind of frame. The frame on the MT900 is adaptable, by the way. Another important feature that is not all that common in the ultralight world. Usually backpacks come in a couple of sizes. You're supposed to measure your torso and order the right length. The system that you get here may add a bit of weight, but it's definitely more versatile. It means that you don't risk ordering the wrong one, or if you're in between sizes, it means you can lend the backpack out to friends, sell it more easily, and so on. So not a bad trade-off in my opinion. The materials used here are solid, if not exotic. Most of the pack is made from a 100 denier ripstop polyamide that is water resistant but not waterproof. And if you look at the higher end ultralight packs, you'll see a lot of Dyneema, that's DCF, or Ultra fabrics. And all fabrics have their pros and cons, but at least in terms of weight and waterproofing, those two will significantly outperform the polyamide that Decathlon is using. they're also a lot more expensive. And I'll get to the potential downsides in a minute, but at the price point, I think this makes sense as a fabric. Plus, they give a 10-year warranty, so that probably tells us something about their confidence in the materials that they're using. I am often surprised at how large the best-selling backpacks are. A lot of them up to 70 liters. And I'm guessing a lot of those are used for traveling rather than hiking. But still, people might wonder, looking at this one, if 50 liters is enough. And while it of course depends on your hiking plans and how far you plan a venture from civilization, I would say that generally speaking, 50 liters is actually quite roomy by ultralight standards. The recommended load for the MT900 is 10 kilograms with a maximum of 12 kilograms. And I won't say that I haven't pushed a bit beyond that in my testing, and it won't fall apart, but you should know that across brands, above a certain weight, ultralight backpacks do tend to start working against you. If you need to carry 16 kilograms, there are better backpacks to do it with, even if they weigh a bit more. This is not the best tool for heavy lifting. So, given those limitations, 50 liters is plenty and will likely leave you with room to spare, both on the outside and the inside. The only volume that's perhaps a bit smaller than average is the hip belt pocket, since you only get the one. On the right hand side, there's a small zippered pouch on the inside of the large compartment, I'm guessing for keys and important small items, as well as a clip to attach a water bladder along with some routing options, which is appreciated and doesn't always come standard. Now, what could be better? If something is marketed as minimalist, that usually means that you're paying extra for the privilege of getting less. And that is very true for a lot of ultralight hiking gear. So let's take a look at what you're not getting. You're not getting waterproofing. That 100D polyamide will not stop heavy rain, and so you'll need to come up with a strategy to keep things dry. You could use a rain cover, you could use a poncho that covers both you and the pack, or you could just accept that the pack will get wet and look for ways to keep the contents dry. Decathlon recently launched dry bags in 3 sizes that are a good fit, well priced and brightly colored. So those are a great option. I think also to keep things organized, because that can be a bit of a challenge in a minimalist pack like this. If you want to go even lighter and cheaper, there's also the option of something like a Nylofume pack liner like this, basically just a fancy trash bag that can stand up to some abuse. There's many options really, just make sure not to get stuck in the rain without one. Another thing that we're not getting here is a separate women's version. I'm never entirely sure how much difference there really is between those, how much of it is marketing, but Decathlon does make women's versions for many, if not most of their hiking backpacks, and they've chosen not to here. So if you're worried about things rubbing you the wrong way, maybe test that out in store. There's no bottle holders on shoulder straps, though there are a couple of mounting points so you can attach your own or DIY something. The front pockets seem to be made of the same polyamide as the shell of the pack, so it's not see-through. A lot of manufacturers use some kind of mesh for that pocket. Looks a bit more messy, but I guess it's slightly easier to find stuff and potentially also let things dry out. I don't really have a strong preference either way. The most important thing for me is being able to let my tent dry, but you can just strap that elsewhere, so I'm fine with this. Come to think of it, I've also had some of these mesh pockets tear through the years, so maybe this is a better solution all around. I'm kind of running out of criticism. I remember reviewing another Decathlon pack a while back, and that also had this arc-shaped ventilated bag. I link it up on top, and I remember reading the comments on Decathlon's website where a couple of people were complaining about the bottom of the backpack digging into their bags. And when I tested this pack, I did a day hike with too much weight just to see how much it could handle, and there was a small section where I was like, okay, maybe this is what they were talking about. Maybe this is what happens when you take this kind of arc design where you have 2 main points of contact at either end of the arc instead of the whole length of your back. I don't know. Most of that probably comes down to body shapes and respecting the max weight limit. Like I said, this is not the best tool for heavy lifting. At 250 euros, this is Decathlon's most expensive backpack, probably pricing it out of the range of some people just starting out. It's not that uncommon, of course, to have the lightest gear be the priciest. This is part of Simond's MT900 series, and the 900 in Decathlon speak means that it's designed to go toe-to-toe with the big boys, designed to compete on quality and features rather than undercutting the competition, as they often do with the 100 and 500 series. Does that mean that it's overpriced? No, but it does mean that at this price point, you have options, especially if you don't care about that ventilated back. You can get similar backpacks by brands like Rab, Osprey, and so on. For the exact feature set, including that ventilated back panel, I'm not seeing a lot of matches in other brands. The first thing that came to mind when I saw this was the Z-Packs Arc Haul. That's also a 50-liter pack with a curved ventilated back. Now that one's made from Ultra 100X, one of those more expensive, lighter, waterproof fabrics, so definitely an upgrade from what Decathlon offers, but it's $3.99, which means that if you were to import it to Europe, it would likely be twice as expensive as the Simond. Bonfils is another brand that has a close contender in the Eris 55L, similar size and design, with a curved frame at the back, made from Ultra 200X at 365 euros. It weighs 85 grams less than the Simond. Haven't tested those two, so I can't really offer you any recommendations, but I understand Decathlon looking at the ultralight market and saying, well, we're pretty confident that we can sell a fair number of these at 250. And I tend to think that they're right. Just the fact that you can walk into a store and fit it instead of having to take a gamble and order it online, that in itself is a big plus. It is also, perhaps somewhat surprisingly, made in Europe, in Czechia, and it comes with a 10-year warranty. So price-wise, not the deal of the century, but certainly not a risky investment either. I'm hoping that we will see more ultralight gear by Simond. There's rumors of Dyneema tents, of quilts. Their sleeping mats have already been shedding some impressive weight. Things are definitely moving in an interesting direction. And this pack is just a great example of that. It won't redefine the ultralight category, and it's not one of those Decathlons you'd be dumb to pay more products. But I would not at all be surprised if this quickly becomes one of the best-selling ultralight packs in the world, because of Decathlon's huge reach and scale of operations, but also because it's just a well-thought-out product that ticks a lot of boxes with hardly any compromises. As always, expectations matter. Decathlon has a way to go to be seen as a premium brand, but if you've ever paid import tax on a Dyneema fanny pack, I think you'll appreciate the value on offer here. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.